the type of feed that you'll be feeding from when we'll say the finish of the young birds.
Yeah.
Because you're feeding a mixture
Yeah.
for racing. What's the mixture for racing?
I'm a wee bit controversial on that because I mix my own.
You mix your own.
And I mix a mixture of peas. I use about 20% maple peas, 20% blue peas, and 20% birdie peas or white peas or yellow peas, whatever you want to call them.
So you're on economics again in one sense.
Yes,
Sandy.
that's right. And
Oh,
I've
yeah.
about 20% plate maize. I don't use any maize. It's got to be plate maize.
It's got to be plate maize.
Best maize.
None of the dog tooth maize.
No,
No,
I don't believe
no.
in it because I always think if we get one bad feed of maize, that's you finished for a season, more or less. So I make sure that I get the best maize possible, and I use Argentine plate maize. So that accounts for about 80% of my feed. Then I've got up to about 10% of thick beans.
Of thick beans.
Then I go into wheat and pellets.
Wheat and pellets.
Pellets, that's it. Wheat, pellets.
And when do you change this feeding through the season?
I'm gradually coming on to that. As I say, I use the pellets during the breeding season, mainly
Yes.
for reproduction.
With your mixture of peas, etc.
And I come off the
Pellets.
pellets and up the maize as,
Up
the,
the
ra-
maize.
as the raisins go on. I replace the 5% pellets with 5%, another 5%. So I'm 25% maize now.
25% maize.
And as the distance racing comes in, I'll increase that maize a bit more, take away
Some of the
wheat,
peas,
the wheat.
the wheat.
No, the peas stay the
No,
same.
the peas always stay the same.
Peas always stay the same. I'll drop even the thick beans. I'll drop a bit to accommodate more maize.
More maize.
And the reason I do that for is I always feel that thick beans require a lot more digestion than peas for the exact same protein content.
Well, there is a saying that to burn high protein, it takes energy, doesn't it, to burn it?
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, it's only theories at the end of the day because you go along and somebody else feeds 50% thick beans and are just as successful as I am.
Yeah, but that's the general theory, isn't it?
Yeah.
That it takes energy to burn.
That's right.
High
Digestion.
protein. Yeah. You don't feed any peanuts or anything like that?
Oh, I do feed peanuts, yeah, but I use them mainly as a tidbit.
Well, as a tidbit?
Yeah, but I increase that tidbit as the long races come.
As the long races
Yeah,
go.
because the pigeons actually become really desperate to get at them.
What would you say?
And another little thing I do with peanuts, I'll go around late at night. This is more than the sort of things that you would do.
Yes.
I come along every nest box and I'll put about 4 peanuts in, just as it's getting really dark.
Yes.
I'll put 4 in. The hens will come off their eggs for it, some of them.
Yes.
And I'm watching this, depending on which ones are keen to get off or just jump off, or ones that are very reluctant to come off. And I use that as well.
And that's signs of when they're getting ready for certain races, isn't it?
When it suits them, like when they're keen on their nest and when they're not so keen. Like.
Yeah. So at the beginning of the season, we're talking less than 1%.
Well, just enough, just
into-
enough for
just a
trapping.
tidbit
Yeah.
into a tidbit.
Actually, another little tip I used a coloured tin, bright coloured tin. And
bright
the peanut-
coloured tin.
And the peanuts are in that.
So
I show that tin when birds are coming out of toss and they drop it.
they recognise
It's
the
got,
tin.
it's got to be a bright coloured tin.
Yeah.
Well, they know it. As soon as you pick the tin up, they know the peanuts there.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. I've
Yeah.
seen that many occasions.
Yeah.
What percentage of peanuts will we be talking about when
Very, very small.
we get to short of 500 miles?
1-2% most.
So we start training the birds. The first chuck is at 40 miles.
Yeah.
What stages will you increase it then? I understand that you'll train frequently at 100 mile.
Yeah, I'll go 100 miles, depending on which way the wind's blowing.
Yeah.
If it's a headwind, I'll stop at 50 miles.
Stop at 50 miles.
That's Morpeth to me. Like.
Morpeth.
Morpeth. I'll stop at 50 miles. They've got a headwind. I know they're going to take a couple of hours to fly home. It's not the distance that I'm interested in, it's the time on a wing.
Yeah.
And I've got to have 2 hours.
What effort?
Two
Strenuous
hours,
effort. What you
2
have to
hours
put
on
in.
the wing. I'm trying to build muscle. And the reason I arrived at that conclusion was that when I looked at athletes, human athletes, even horse training, dog training, it's trying to build muscle. Trying to build a muscle or the endurance that's a muscle that causes endurance over a long distance of time.
That's right. Yes.
And I find that if you're racing, if you send pigeons, I've heard fanciers saying, I was down at such and such a birds were sitting there laughing when I got home. And I always say, well, you've wasted your time.
So in other words, what we're looking for is a strenuous effort in the training to put that
build
muscle.
muscle.
to
2 hours in
muscle.
the wing is adequate, I think.
Well, I try to get my own pigeons down to 100, 200 miles myself.
Yeah.
And they learn
Well,
to...
you're sure of what's happening there.
Yeah, and they're on their own, aren't they?
That's right.
And they're not mixing with other pigeons, are they?
No.
That's
no.
very
That's
important.
very important.
Very important,
Yeah,
isn't it,
yeah.
Sandy?
Because well, you're trying to find out what your pigeons are. And as much as the more you train with pigeons in big batches, the more you're less sure your pigeons know where they've been going.
That's
or
right.
using their heads at
That's
all.
right. So when you're training your pigeons, you more or less stick them yourself, more or less, not all the time. How many pigeons will you liberate together? Will the whole basket go, or will 2 or 3 at a time go?
No, I'm
How will you do it?
not a believer in this single tossing or reducing to 2 or 3. You do have a hawk problem, I know that, and a batch does it. But when you're talking about 20, 30 pigeons, there's economics comes into travelling that distance as well. Because you're not going to travel with
that's
6
right.
pigeons, you're going to take as many as you possibly can.
Well, if you
attack
take
them all if you can.
If you take all your pigeons down the road,
Yeah.
will you liberate them all at one go?
Yeah.
You liberate them all at one
Always.
go.
And another little thing, I have them in the boot, 2 baskets in the boot. I get there, I wait 5 minutes and I liberate the pigeons.
You don't?
I don't give them a drink, I don't let them sit in the sun and all that sort of thing.
No.
And it makes absolutely no difference, in my mind.
In your mind, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it makes them work and think straight away, doesn't
That's
it?
right, yeah.
What type of and what methods of motivation? You try a lot of little tricks with them.
Well, this all comes down to observation. I mean, you can vary, I can go through various things that I've used in different pigeons at different times, but I'm playing it by ear. As I said, I use peanuts late at night, and I see what pigeon wants to come off an S quick, and then which don't want to leave an S. And if you go towards her, she'll go for you. There's lots of little things like cocks. You could have them just beginning to look at a hen. Like Tarzan was just beginning to look at a hen.
That's Tarzan, the national winner.
Yeah. But he's done it in every condition. He's done it sitting. He's done it feeding young.
What about driving to start with?
I don't like driving, and as much as pigeons, especially younger pigeons, 1-year-old, 2-year-old, they get overexcited. And they begin to look for their hen when you let them go. I always think when you let a batch of pigeons go and you've let a driving cock, a young cock that's overexcited, he starts looking around the batch for his hens, and they're always last home. About to last home.
So we're looking basically...
There are exceptions, of course.
Yeah. Well, there always will be, won't there?
Yeah.
There's always exceptions to it. What about the eggs, the stage of racing to sitting
12 days
when they're on
is
eggs?
usually the best time or a general time, best time for some pigeons. But then you can get hens overdue.
That vary again?
Yeah. It's all an observation, David. There is no general rule at all.
No. Will they be on pot eggs or on their own eggs?
Pot eggs, money.
They'll be on pot eggs.
Pigeons that want to go distance, I try to be sure that they're not going to hatch.
Well, I'll ask you something now, which I think is important at times. Will they be on a plastic egg or a pot egg?
Pot egg.
A proper pot egg.
I'll show you them.
Not the plastic eggs.
No.
I've
I've used a plastic egg with a drop of sand in it, or a drop of polyfiller. And I've also used it with a worm in it, an earthworm.
Yes.
And I've tried all that things.
Yeah.
I find
No.
I find the pot eggs is the best.
It has that little bit more weight, doesn't it?
That's right. It's nearer the true thing. In fact,
as
an egg is due for hatching, it gets lighter anyway.
That's right.
A young bird is
quite. Yeah.